It's the first Saturday of August 2020. Beautiful morning. The South Climb trailhead of the Mount Charleston Wilderness. And our goal today is to reach the summit of Mount Charleston. Then we'll see what we do after that. We may turn around, head back down to the South Climb trailhead, and that's it. Or we may go on to Lee Peak, Madre Mountain, and Fletcher Peak, making it a 5-peak run. So I don't know. No promises at all. We're just going to have a good time today. And it's the first Saturday in August, as I mentioned, 2020. Temperature in the Las Vegas Valley is looking like about 111 degrees today. I'm expecting once I hit that upper circuit at about 11,000 feet, 10,500, 11,000 feet, I should be in 70, 75 degrees. So it'll be a nice cool day. Descending will be a challenge because then we're back into probably 80 degrees, 90 degrees by the time we get back to this trailhead. So that's pretty much the story of where we are, where we're headed. And there is Mount Charleston. Charleston Peak. There's Cathedral Rock. And circling around here, I believe we're looking at Harris Mountain. There's the sun just beginning to rise down Lobel Canyon. And here is Madre Mountain. So there we've got the surroundings, and it is approximately 6:25, 6:30, and we're starting. So here we go. A little over a mile into this, we hit what I call the endless stairway. This is probably the steepest part of the whole experience. You still see the sun rising. Painting the entire cliff ahead. Okay, we are at the top of the endless stairway, and here is Madre Mountain. It's front and center, and here's the first real height of today. It's just an overlook on the way up the South Climb Trail. Very beautiful view, though. Sometime if you just want to go to this overlook, it's about 2.25 miles to get to the top of this. Amazing view, well worth that trip. So anyway, yeah, we are at the top of the endless stairway, And now we're getting ready to head up the side of this hill here, circle around, end up at the summit of this overlook. And I'm going to call this section another planet switchback, because you switch back all the way up this area and then circle around to the right and behind this cliff. So here we go for the next wonderful section of this adventure up Planet Switchback. By the way, if you want to get a perspective, another perspective of this area, and this little wash area, go to the Mummy's Toe page on LasVegasAreaTrails.com. There's Mummy's Toe, and last week I was looking down on this very area, and you can see all the canyons on this side of the Kyle Canyon and all the washes. It's a very good perspective for just viewing different potential approaches up the south to the south rim of Kyle Canyon, which is where we're headed. Oh, by the way, by the time we get to the top of this overlook, we will actually be about halfway to Griffith Peak, which is our first stop. Here we are, approaching that cliff overlook height we saw just in the last section of this video. I'm a little out of breath. I've just ascended Planet Switchback, and there is the area, the trail that I just ascended, and you can see the cliffs around us. This is one amazing view. There's Harris Mountain, and then up here, that height ahead in the center is Griffith Peak. And we are halfway there. So that's a good sign. Let's just head over to the edge here and look out over Kyle Canyon. This is one of the better views, and like I said, you can just make this your destination. Give you an experience of being up high, cool, on one of those hot Las Vegas days. There's Mummy Mountain, and looking down, you can see straight down into the place, the location where we began. Just a second. Okay, here we go. Here's where we began, down in that area. And Charleston Village, right down in this area. You can see the Rainbow Subdivision. Very famous if you look at the the Harris Griffith Circuit page and navigating the Rainbow Subdivision. A real delight. There's Mummy Mountain. And what else do we see here? There is Lee Peak. So Mummy Mountain, Lee Peak, and as I mentioned, Griffith Peak, and we have Charleston Peak, I believe. Yeah, there it is. Well, yeah, here we go. And right here is Charleston Peak. So you can see 4 peaks from this location. And speaking of the peaks, guess what? Here is a 5th peak, Fletcher Peak. So, there are, oh, and, okay, the 6th peak. If you look at the 6th peak circuit page on Las Vegas area trails, you can see me navigating around these peaks. There's Harris Mountain. So now, not necessarily in this order, you've seen all of the peaks. Harris, Griffith, Charleston behind the trees, Lee Peak behind the trees, Mummy Mountain, and Fletcher Peak. There's all 6 of the peaks. One of these days, I will actually succeed in doing them all in less than 24 hours, but probably not today. Okay, onward. We're at the 3rd great overlook. I didn't film from the 2nd. It was only about 1/8 of a mile down. But this is very interesting. This is Cathedral Rock. And if you see the Charleston Peak from Cathedral Rock page of LasVegasAreaTrails.com, you can see where we came up this canyon to the base of this very cliff and then turned around, or maybe it's this cliff over here. Yeah, I bet it's this cliff. And had we continued on up, we would have reached this area, actually. I don't know if it's possible to continue up this area if there is a passageway down there. We'll have to check it out, see if it is possible. Anyway, here's the view from this overlook, which is pretty dramatic. You can see Charleston Peak up ahead. Here we have the south ridge of Kyle Canyon. And here's Mummy Mountain. Nice wind today. As I said earlier, it's 110 degrees in the Las Vegas Valley today. And here there's just a cool breeze. If there's any cooler, I might be shivering right now. It's really nice to be able to be in this kind of weather on a day like this. Okay, here we have Harris Mountain. And I think I missed Fletcher Peak. Let's go back around and take a look at Fletcher Peak. There we go. Right behind the trees here. There's Fletcher Peak. And as I mentioned, last Saturday we were on Mummy's Toe looking at this very location. So there you have quite a bit of the area here, and then you can see the amazing shapes of the bristlecone pine trees in this area. Just incredible. Very rugged. It's the kind of place you could just come up and spend some time meditating, listen to the breeze, look at the view. Remember on the Mummy Mountain West page, we talk about the horrifying half. That is that avalanche slope just to the left of Mummy Mountain. Mummy Mountain being the cliff there. And then looking straight down, there is Coxcomb Ridge, right below Mummy Mountain. So there you've seen a lot of the landmarks here in the Kyle Canyon area. Looking down in this direction, you can see the, I think there's a lodge down there, Charleston Lodge, and the U.S. Forest Service Station Interpretive Center. Great place to look, learn. There's Gas Peak, that pointy peak over there, and to the left of it is the Sheep Range. So there you have seen quite a few of the landmarks in this area. Beautiful spot here. Love this location. Someday I'll just spend a whole day up here. But not today. Today we continue on up to Griffith Peak, which is right behind the trees up there. Okay, onward. Well, we're just below the junction, but this is a great view of Griffith Peak. We got a couple hours into this, and we're averaging about a mile every half hour. And I guess if you take away the video time, it's a little more rapid, maybe 25 minutes for a mile. There's Centennial Hills. And actually, here's a view of Frenchman Mountain in the distance there, in the haze. So here we are in the forest that is now turned bristlecone pine, and getting into a wide open space here. Beautiful views and amazing trees around us. Okay, let's continue on up and let's get to the top of Griffith Peak over there. Here we go. In on the junction on the south, at the summit of the south rim of Kyle Canyon. And this is where all those gravity points we earned coming from the South Climb Trailhead up about 4.5 miles and I don't know, 3 to 4,000 feet, somewhere in there. There's Griffith Peak, and we're going to pop on up to Griffith Peak. So at the South Climb Trailhead, at the at the junction up here, you've got two choices. So let's go up here and see what those choices are. So you can turn left, head up to Griffith Peak, or right and head over Charleston Peak. Let's take a look at the sign. Here we are. Don't know if you can see it in this light. I'll take a picture of it and put it on the slideshow. So let's head on over to Griffith Peak. It's the final approach to Griffith Peak. So we're heading up in that direction right now. And by the way, surrounding view. There's down in the Pahrump area, down in that valley. Approaching the first summit of the day, Griffith Peak. Awesome view from up here. Yes, and a lot of wind. So here's the Madre Mountain, Centennial Hills in the background, Gas Peak, Fletcher Peak. Fletcher Peak, the Sheep Range. There it is. Charleston Peak. And Lee Peak. From the summit of Griffith Peak. There we have the Pahrump down in the valley. Carefully. There's the Las Vegas Strip in the haze. Centennial Hills and Frenchman Mountain. You'd probably be able to see Lake Mead in that area. It was clarity. So here we are, summit of Griffith Peak. By the way, while I'm up on Griffith Peak, let's take a look at the south approach from Lobel Canyon. And there's a ridge down there. Following that ridge, one could descend down into Lobel Canyon and on to the end of the canyon, basically. And there's Potassium Mountain in the background. So we'll look for a possibility of making it up here from Lobel Canyon at some point in the future. Point of interest from Griffith Peak is Harris Mountain straight ahead. It's kind of interesting. It took me 2.5 hours to summit Griffith Peak from the South Climb Trailhead, taking the main trail. When I take the Harris Mountain route from the South Climb and head up Harris Mountain, then over to Griffith Peak, it takes me about 8.5 hours. So I'll let you know the difference in time here. Okay, onward. We're on the way to Charleston Peak, and the reason I stopped here is that it looks as if this is the summit of that canyon that I have attempted to approach this very area from Cathedral Rock. There's Cathedral Rock. There is Coxcomb Ridge. Here's Mummy Mountain. And I believe if I could get up that canyon, maybe I'd head off to the right and head on up this area, but I'm not sure what things look like below. So we haven't gotten that far yet. We'll have to experiment a little more. But anyway, this would be that summit area, and these are those trees that you can see on the Cathedral Rock to Charleston Peak page. We've made an attempt, a couple attempts so far, have not yet cracked the code, but one of these days we will give you an idea of the trail itself. And here's the main trail heading toward Charleston Peak. You can't see Charleston Peak at this point. But anyway, we're at the summit of that canyon that you approach from Cathedral Rock. Onward. Okay, we're approaching a very beautiful waypoint between Griffith Peak and Charleston Peak. This is probably close to exactly halfway between. So let's just get a perspective here, what we can see. First of all, we are definitely on the ledge of the south ridge of Kyle Canyon and looking down. Actually, if you look very carefully, you can see the restroom at the trailhead, the Trail Canyon trailhead. And then you can trace your way all the way up through the area around the left side of Coxcomb Ridge. So around there, and then circling, and then around the left side up that avalanche slope we call the horrifying half. 1,000 feet in half-mile space. And then, we turn, when we're going up Mummy Mountain, we turn to the right. Now, another route is the route I'm taking right now. If I decided to go to Lee Peak after Charleston Peak. Then I would take the top of the north ridge of Kyle Canyon through the wilderness and then right up to Mummy Mountain. I don't know that I'm going to do that, but hey, it's a remote possibility today. And there's Mummy's Toe. We were on Mummy's Toe last Saturday. Very nice view. And we were taking shots of this area from Mummy's Toe. So you can see that on LasVegasAreaTrails.com. And then looking down Kyle Canyon. There's the highway heading out Kyle Canyon. And let's see what else we can see. Gas Peak. And then to the left of Gas Peak is the Sheep Range. Very pretty dim in the background. And right in the center here, in the foreground, is Fletcher Peak. And you can see the very tip of La Madre Mountain. Right down there. There you go. And then over in this direction, you can see Centennial Hills area. Last time I stood on this spot, it was close to midnight, and all that was lit up. And you can see that on the Six Peak Circuit page. And of course, we're in a burn area from around 2013, and you can see this was a very, very beautiful bristlecone pine forest, and now all burned. It'll take 1,000 years at least to get back to where it was before this burn. Okay, and then continuing around here, see this saddle right up there? We're heading for the saddle, and this is what I call the dividing point between the lower and the upper south ridge of Kyle Canyon. Once we hit that saddle, we'll be skirting the upper south ridge. You'll see in a moment. But anyway, just look at this. It is such a beautiful view. Oh, by the way, there we have Griffith Peak. We stood on Griffith Peak about an hour ago. So, there you have it. And let's continue on now to Charleston Peak. Here we go. Well, there's Charleston Peak, and you can see the trail stretching ahead. Another couple miles and we'll be at the summit of Charleston Peak. Another 1,000 feet elevation gain too. We are at that junction. And there we look back across at Griffith Peak. And you have a couple choices here. You can take the regular trail, or you can take the high road. And I prefer the high road because there is not so much downhill and uphill to this, which I'll be going along the upper south ridge of Kyle Canyon. So just head around this ridge here to get to the high road, and just stay even. Don't descend. maybe ascend very gradually. And soon you will be skirting the ridge up ahead. And two reasons I like this. One is because, as I said, it doesn't involve downhill and uphill. The second reason is because it is the most awesome view from the ridge up there, all the way to Charleston Peak, as opposed to being down on the main trail and you're not seeing a whole lot down there. Now, we're looking straight down at Pahrump here. And then beyond Pahrump would be the Death Valley area. You see a high point very faintly in the background. That's Telescope Peak. Now let's see, let's get a closer shot of Telescope Peak in the Madre Mountain range, the other side of Death Valley. And here we are, Telescope Peak right in the center. Death Valley in between. So there you have it. Beautiful view and perspective. So let's go ahead and continue on up to this ridge. We'll take a few shots from on the ridge. It's a little more rugged for climbing, but I tell you, it is incredibly beautiful up there. Here we are on the upper ridge. This is just the beginning of it, and as you can see, it is definitely the ledge. And probably 1,000, 1,500 foot drop off the edge of this. You don't want to be up here too close to the edge on a windy day. As you're traveling along, you don't want to lean to your right or even have a heavy thought on the right side of your mind because it's a rapid descent down to the bottom down there. So, by the way, here's a good shot of Lee Peak, and maybe we'll go that way. It depends just how we're feeling, what time we get to Charleston Peak, which is going to be quite the climb. I think there's another close to, well, around 800 feet from elevation gain from where we are right now to get to the summit of Charleston Peak, which is behind this little mound up ahead. Okay, onward. Okay, on this upper ridge, Kyle Canyon South Ridge, time to refuel. We're looking at Charleston Peak right in the center, and Lee Peak in the center, then around across the north ridge of Kyle Canyon over to Mummy Mountain. If you look carefully, you can see the Mummy. If you look at the 4-peak circuit page on LasVegasAreaTrails.com, that is the best shot of the Mummy at sunrise. And the Mummy looks like it's getting ready to stand up and walk on that picture. Okay, continuing along. And there we are looking back at the junction. And down toward Pahrump, and then over to Telescope Peak, the high point, the very far background. Looks like a shadow. So, there you have it. Gonna take a rest and refuel now for the final stretch up to Charleston Peak, another 800 feet, probably 500 to 800 feet elevation gain. Continuing along this upper ridge, how beautiful. The view just does not quit. Here's a little high point from which you can look down and see a couple awesome sights. There's the famous Cold War plane crash on Mount Charleston. As in the 1940s. You look it up. Then up to the summit of Mount Charleston. Lee Peak. Mummy Mountain. Fletcher Peak, and behind it, Griffith Peak, not Griffith, Gas Peak and the Sheep Range. And then we're looking straight down into Centennial Hills. And then back along this ridge. And I stayed at the top of the ridge, but there is a little split-off trail that will lead up to this point, which actually, if you want to cut off going downhill on the main trail, take the little split-off trail and it'll head up to this point. And you'll get to see some of the ridge. So there you have it, Mount Charleston, Charleston Peak, and Pahrump, and keep trying to get a clear shot of Telescope Peak across from Death Valley. This looks like the clearest yet. Okay, let's head on up past the plane crash and on up to Charleston Peak. Probably another 500 feet. Approaching the plane wreck, you can see the main section, fuselage on the left, and then the wing on the right. There's the trail up to Charleston Peak, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to circle right through that wreck, take a few good shots up close, and then continue on up to the ridge up there, and then on up to Charleston Peak. So here we go. Well, here we are in the midst of the wreckage, and when I'm up here I always think about where divisions can lead. Pretty much something like this. Cold War divisions and a lot of pain and suffering, and at this point in history, 2020, we color code our states red and blue, and divisions continue. And COVID has run wild. The pandemic in this country more than any other country, in part because we can't unite and create a united plan. So lot of what we're looking at here. And so far on August 1st, something like 154,000 deaths, 4.5 million cases of COVID. We've got in this country 1/4 of all the cases in the world, 1/4 of all the deaths in the world. Other countries have united and created a united plan and brought their deaths down to near zero. We're still at 1,000 a day because, in part, we cannot agree on anything. And so we're experiencing rubble, just like what you see here from the old Cold War. What we learned. So anyway, just a thought. There we are looking down at the wing, and the crash spread out. Lots of winds up here, as you can see right now, and this plane was not able to make it over this last section. It crashed, and then the military burned it so that there would be no evidence left. And the group of scientists that was on this plane were the ones working on the Manhattan Project to create the first nuclear bomb. And we got to ask, how did that go too? So anyway, just some thoughts about where divisions lead. Pretty obvious right in this location. Okay, let's go ahead and continue on up to Charleston Peak. Well, here we are at a new height. Pretty much angled my way up from the plane crash down there. Just headed pretty much straight up this slope. There's some loose rock in places, but not too horribly bad. And now we turn around and see there is Charleston Peak. And you can see the flag waving on the summit. So we are within, I'd say, a couple hundred vertical feet of Charleston Peak. Okay, let's continue on up. We're on the final approach to the summit. I'm just going to ride this ridge all the way up to the summit. The main trail is down there. Trying not to lose my hat in this wind. And there's another view of the main trail. And then here's that upper ridge of the south ridge of Kyle Canyon. We skirted the edge of that ridge just a moment ago. And then you can look over and see Griffith Peak, the last summit we stood on. So let's continue up the final approach to Charleston Peak. I feel like I'm going slow motion now. Altitude is getting to me. But guess what? We're topping Charleston Peak. You see the flag emerging. And here we are, the summit of Charleston Peak. From this vantage point, there you see Lee Peak straight ahead. And then follow the north ridge of Kyle Canyon. There's Mummy Mountain. Let's see if we can nail that V Canyon. I'll see if I can get it right in the center here. There we go. You see that V shape in the cliff? That's the V Canyon final approach to Mummy Mountain. And then we look around. Here's Mummy's Toe. There's the space between the toe and the knees. Beautiful stretch of bristlecone pine forest that you can access from the Mummy Springs area. And then looking out over Centennial Hills, Las Vegas Valley, and right in the center there, La Madre Mountain. And you see that pointy mountain? That's Gas Peak. And then the Sheep Range to the left. And of course, in this direction, there's Harris Mountain. And Griffith Peak. We're standing on Griffith Peak. It's about almost exactly 3 hours ago. Looking down through Lobel Canyon to Potassium Mountain. Circling around. Here's Pahrump. The far distance, Telescope Peak. Right in the center there. So there you have it. Charleston Peak. And the whole area around. And we're looking down this direction is Lee Canyon. And then up the 95 corridor. From the top of Charleston Peak, 11,920 feet in elevation. By the way, Once again, we're looking at 110, 111 degrees down in the Las Vegas Valley, the lower lands that you see all around us. It's probably 70, 75 degrees here, which is pretty cool. And guess what? Just barely straight ahead, you see faint blue, and that is Lake Mead. And in front of that, Frenchman Mountain. Okay, signing off.